Okay.
Yeah, so it's it's good. I don't know how, and I'm not going to try to play with the picture because I'll just make it worse.
Leave it alone. You know what it is. The sun is coming in through your window and it's trying to make a halo.
Well, I'll have to start singing for you soon then, eh? That's hilarious.
I guess we should give John and Mike a few more minutes. It's not like for both of them to be late.
Well, otherwise we may just have to start telling stories without them.
Oh my goodness, is that possible? Yes.
I'm sure Lucy's ready. She's always ready.
Oh, Mike is in the room waiting to be admitted, and someone just admitted it. I was just about to do it. Or did he go out again?
You scared him away, Bubba. See?
No, he's here. Just connecting.
He's connecting. And if you guys hear what sounds like a small animal running around, that's my stomach.
Oh.
I've fed it twice. I fed it twice today, but it seems to want more. More? You want
Control
more?
it, Bubba. See, you're bigger than your stomach.
Too bad you're not here. I just brought home a box of home-baked cookies. They were selling them at church, and I'm thinking, ooh, that was a mistake. There's homemade fudge, and I'm going, oh my God, I shouldn't have bought them. But it was a fundraiser, and I'm thinking, oh, I might as well put in my $10, right?
Hey, I know. I
going,
have a great niece who was in the Girl Scouts, and when they sell their cookies, I buy a case of Thin Mints.
Oh yes.
And the Thin Mints are thin, but after I eat that case, I am not.
Yeah, I hear you. We don't have Thin Mints in Canada. We do have the chocolate mint cookies, but
right,
we don't have the Thin Mints that you're talking about.
My daughter is in the Girl Scouts
live is
here,
on.
But they never sell anything. Not Thin Mints, nor biscuits, no nothing. I think it was a mistake. I enrolled here. Really. I don't see anything good coming out of it. No cookies.
Ladies,
no cookies.
Waleed is asking if we're ready. Keith said yes, he is. Someone said, where is Mike? He was here a moment ago. Did he pop out again?
Yeah, probably trying to connect.
Well, you think he'd be very upset if we start without him, or should we give him a few more seconds? Because he was here, but he wait, that's Cat. John Rowe, just a minute, John Rowe.
Here comes Kath and John. Yeah, you're right. They're coming.
And I presume Mike will try again. And yeah, John Rowe, are you with us?
Hello, everyone. I am Mike for tonight.
You are Mike for tonight?
I am Mike for tonight.
Okay, Mike for tonight.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm so late, everybody. I went onto the Storytelling Cafe website and I just couldn't get in, but I'm here now. I went out and I came in again and here I am.
Because Mike came in and then he went out. I presume it was the other Mike.
Yeah, he was checking because I phoned him. I said I can't get in. I clicked on today's stories and a page just came up, Story Circle or Story Round, hosted by John Rowe, and I scrolled to the bottom of the page and there was no link.
I had the same problem. It must have been a bug or something. Probably.
I think there's something on with the website at the moment. I'll get it checked. Yeah. Anyway,
it's the tech no imps acting up. Yeah. The tech no imps. All right, so Mike,
shush everyone. Let's start. I'm handing over to Cass because I'm not here. But I'm going to now. Are we on the can we start on Facebook, Willie, please? Can we start on Facebook?
I thought we were on Facebook already.
I thought we were already too.
Okay, that's fine. As long as we are, then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm handing over to welcome to World Storytelling Cafe. I'm handing over to Kath Edwards, who is our host for tonight, wherever you are. And I've got to go because I'm not here. Okay.
Good tip, John.
Kath was having some trouble. Okay, bye, Kath. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Well, a bit
Hey,
of a late
Kat.
start, never mind.
Can
I've
I-
had a message from Rebecca Lemaire that she would like to tell, but maybe she's having the same problem. Perhaps she can't get in either. It seems that you can land on a page on the website that doesn't let you in. So it could be that one or two people have had that problem.
Hi,
Or is that
Kath,
you?
can
Are
you
you
hear
there?
me?
Is that you there, Rebecca?
Yeah, we're all here, but while it is just setting it all up, we haven't finished setting up, and we've got a nice audience here in the cafe as well.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. So
So
you're
they'll be
telling,
watching all of
Rebecca.
you.
Is
Um,
Kamal telling as well?
Yeah, Kamal's happy to tell as well, so we're both here.
Okay. So that's 2 so far. Who else is telling tonight?
I would like to tell me, Lucy.
So Diana, Lucy, Keith,
And the shy guy, Barbara, would like to tell a story.
Barbara C.
They let me get away with that.
We're being polite, Baba.
Oh, okay.
Just as well somebody is.
I could share a poem if that's all right.
Oh, why not,
Short.
Despina? And Valentina?
I'm just gonna wait and see, because the trouble is I have a couple of stories and I can't decide on which one I want to tell.
Oh, I
So-
know that feeling. So far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tellers.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes on later.
Okay. So if we go,
Hmm.
how's this for a running order? Diana, Lucy, hang on, I'm just writing things down. Sorry, bear with me. So Diana, Lucy, Rebecca, Kamal, Keith, Babasi, Despina so far. Does that work? Is that okay with
Sounds
everybody?
good.
Sounds very good to me. In that case, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to the storytelling stage that she is currently sitting on, the lovely Diana Pearce. Ray!
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great introduction. Right. I've got some storytelling for kids coming up this week. And this is one of the stories that I thought I would treat you a lot like guinea pigs and see what you think. So the Tyrolese mountains are particularly beautiful, particularly at winter with all the snow. And between the Italian and the Austrian Alps, it's a very wonderful, magical land to look at. But if you actually stay there, then it's a different matter, because the storms can be quite severe, and lots of snow can cover over things. You could lose your way quite easily. It's not quite so hospitable if you have to travel about or even just stay there. Now, there was a family who stayed in just by the Tyrolese mountains, and it was just a hut that they stayed in, but that was all they had, so they had to make the best of it. And the father was a cobbler. Now, the father was on his own because his wife had died quite a number of years ago, and there were 3 boys. They had Fritzl, Franzl, and Hansel. Fritzl was the eldest, and all the 3 boys used to help their dad as much as they could. But it was a hard way to earn a living being a cobbler at those times, all those years ago, because when he went, he wasn't always paid in money. He was often paid in kind, and that was the last resort, really. But if he'd been to the farmer and he'd managed to repair some shoes, then he would maybe come home with some goat's milk, and the boys would be grateful. And because they'd been brought up always to say grace before meals, they always considered it a real honor to have such food in front of them, because sometimes the pickings were particularly limited. But anyway, if he went to the baker, he would maybe come back with bread instead of money. Or if he went to the butcher, then they could maybe have a stew with all the meat, and that would be great. Well, He didn't know what he was going to do because nobody needed any shoes mended and he couldn't make any new ones because nobody had money for that. But there was a war on, so I suppose it wasn't really surprising. And a lot of men had to go away and families had to just make do the best they could. Well, he decided that, well, what could he do? If the army was there, he thought maybe he could mend army boots or even make some new ones. And he thought about this and he went out one day, but he knew that the soldiers themselves couldn't afford to pay for these. It would have to be the captains or the generals. But he did get some limited work from that. And it was beginning to get to that time of year where they had a couple of days holiday. So the family were looking forward to that. But the problem was there wasn't going to be much food to eat. So one night the father got ready and he put on his boots and he put on his outer clothing, his big jacket and the big hood and the scarf that was wrapped around a million times. And he said to the boys, now just put a little bit on the fire at a time to try and keep it going for as long as possible. And then hopefully it'll still be on when I come in. And he said, I know you'll be hungry and tired, but the best thing for you to do is to wrap up in bed, maybe tell yourself some stories till I get back. But whatever you do, do not open the door to anyone. So they all nodded and off he went. And they were cold and they were hungry because they hadn't eaten that night, but they all got into bed. Now, Fritzl was the tallest because he was the eldest. And then Hansel was a little one, he would go in the middle. And the other lad, Franzel, he would go on the outside. And they did their best to keep each other cheered up, telling little tales or stories or rhymes or anything that would distract them from how they felt, which was cold and hungry. So the storm started outside and the wind was blowing really quite badly. And the snow was blowing and the wind was starting to drift the snow. And it was really quite horrible. And they could hear snow coming off the top of the hut that they stayed in. They could hear, well, sort of rumblings, like maybe snow going down a crevice or something like that, because they weren't far away from where that might have happened. But then they heard another noise. And Fritzl went to look. And the other two boys immediately said, now remember what Dad said, don't let anybody in, Fritzl. Don't let anybody in. And he goes, sure, he would do that. And he looked out and he saw this little man with boots on and a great big hat. And if it wasn't for the hat making him look so tall, he would have been even smaller. Smaller than Hansel, the youngest. Well, the thing was, the man was very angry and he was banging on the door like this. And he was covered in snow and it looked really cold. And although they weren't warm inside, it was warmer than being outside. And Fritzl, being a kind-hearted lad, said, come in, why don't you come in? So he unlatched it and let this little man in. And as soon as this angry little man got in, there was snow all over his hat. And he took his hat off and dumped it on the floor. And then he shook himself and got rid of all the snow. And there was a big pile of snow on the floor. And Fritzl wasn't at all happy about this. But anyway, he'd let him in. And then this little man, who was so annoying and seemed so angry, went about and he lifted up the pot of one pan and had a look, but there was nothing inside. And he saw another pot. So he lifted the lid up and had a look. And there was nothing inside that. And he said, you boys, you greedy boys, you've eaten all the food and left nothing for me. And I'm absolutely starving. And Fritzl tried to explain that they didn't have any food in the house because their father had gone out to try and get some. And hopefully when he came back, then if the little man would just calm down, he could eat with them. Well, he wasn't having any of that. He got really grouchy. And then he spotted the bed. It was really just one room with one big bed in it. And Fritzl had got out to answer the door, but Franzel and Hansel were still in it, and they were trying to keep each other warm. Well, this grouchy little man got into the bed as well, and he pulled all the covers over for him, and then he pinched and he poked at the other two until they fell out of bed. And Fritzl was getting really angry because he always liked to look after his brothers. But he couldn't do so with this annoying little man. Why had he let him in? Why had he let him in? Well, then the little man said something that took Fritzl totally by surprise. He said, well, maybe you should start doing cartwheels around the room. That will keep you warm. And Fritzl was really angry. He really didn't want this man to tell him anything else that he should do. He didn't want to do anything that he said. But in the end, just to make him quiet, he started doing cartwheels. And the strangest thing was that out of his pockets, when he was upside down, came 1, 2, 3, 4, lots of oranges. And these kids hadn't seen oranges in so long. And they were absolutely amazed. And when he stopped, Hansel was told that, well, no, not Hansel, Franzel next, was told that he should do the same. So Franzel started doing cartwheels around the room, and out of his pockets came sweets and cakes and buns and scones and all sorts of good sweet things to eat. And then they said for Hansel, this little man said for Hansel to do the same. But the two brothers said, no, you can't do that because Hansel's too small and he's too weak and he can't manage to do cartwheels all by himself. But what they did do was hold him upside down against the wall. And out of his pockets came gold and silver, lots of them, coins and all sorts. And then the boys looked round to see where the little man had gone, but they couldn't see him anywhere. It wasn't as if there were many hiding places in this one room. He had disappeared, and they didn't understand any of it. Now, their father wasn't back yet, but he always used to do this. When they didn't have very much food, he would always say, now, what are we having tonight? And he would look down into the pot and he would say, we're going to have schnitzel, schnotzel, and schnoozle. And of course, it was just a silly made-up name, but it somehow made the meager amount of food that they did have seem all the more appetizing. And it put the boys in a good mood. And the boys liked to anticipate when he might see it. So whenever there was not very much food, he would always say, the father, let's have schnitzel, schnotzel, and schnitzel. And well, he came home this night and he heard all about this grouchy old man with the hat, with the boots, and then about what he did about looking in the pots and complaining and about being in the bed and being so annoying. And the old man said, well, actually, I've never actually known if this is true, but this is a legend that I've heard about King Lorin, who is king of the goblins and stays underneath the Tyrolese mountains. And he has gold and silver there, lots of it. But he's a kind-hearted soul. Nobody's really seen him very much. Nobody can often confirm what he exactly looks like. People have said various things, but nobody knows for sure. But he had a daughter apparently as well. And she stayed with him in the Tyrolese mountains. And she loved roses. And she said to her father, I want to have a garden of roses. But over there where they stayed, it seemed impossible, but not for King Lorin. What he did was built the sides and the top of the garden with crystal, so the sun could shine through, and all these beautiful blooms of different types of roses with different scents flourished. That was the kind of man that he was. And there was a rumor that at this time of year, at winter time, that he would pick one family and go and do something if he felt it was right. And while the boys were telling their father all about this, and he was returning the favour by letting them know all that he knew, they decided in the end that possibly it was King Lauren. And the boys said, yeah, but why did he have to be so grouchy? And why did he have to be so annoying? And all that the father could think to say was, well, maybe he was just testing you to see what you were really like, what kind of people you were really like. And before their meal that night, they said grace, they said thanks again. And so they were very thankful to King Lauren, because that was the only explanation they could give to what had happened on that very snowy night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diana. I like the little details. You know, today's children, they've got no idea that if you have a fire where you actually need to burn things and you've not got much fuel, you just put a little bit on at a time and keep the fire going.
Yeah.
Quite a few nice little details like that. Thank you. So next up we have Lucy.
The compulsion. My sister was a compulsive devil worshipper. She was only 16, but with that boyfriend of hers, so dodgy, they were like Bonnie and Clyde, partners in crime. She said that it was him who taught her how to commit crime without being caught. We knew we had a big problem when the police came knocking on our door, wanting to speak to my sister. They explained to us that she had been doing arson and theft, and they gave her a caution. But I knew they wouldn't give up their devil worshipping, so I decided to do something the police didn't do: punish her. It was easier said than done. Punish my sister. I made a search online and I said, how to punish a devil worshipper. Hundreds of entries came up, but one caught my attention. Hire an angel. They will charge you a fee, but man, it is worth it. And they're real angels. They have large, wide wings. They can fly. They have white eyes and long, white hair. They come from the extreme dimension and are used to fighting demons in all shapes and forms. And they are reliable. So I narrow my search, and I was searching now for angels that can punish devil worshippers. Many entries came up, but one I found interesting. It said, is a relative of yours addicted to devil worshipping? I can change their ways without touching them safely and final. Email me or phone me for a quote. So I phoned, and the angel said to me, it's going to cost you £4,000, 2,000 on commission, 2,000 on completion. And it works like this. I will install a talisman in your sister's bedroom out of sight. The talisman will be connected to me, and she will have a reality that doesn't really exist, but it will be her only reality until she changes her ways. The talisman can be in place for up to 2 weeks. And I said, is the job guaranteed? I cannot afford to lose £4,000. And the angel said, Yes, it's guaranteed. If she doesn't change her ways, you will get your money back. The angel fitted the talisman, and my sister went to sleep. But she was far from sleeping. She was in all an alternative reality, in an army boot camp. And the senior instructor wanted to punish her. He would say, do 200 push-ups. And after that, I will lock you in a room full of serpents. And all you'll have to eat is serpents if you can catch them. And my sister would reply, no, I won't be doing 200 push-ups. How can you make me? And when she was locked in a room full of serpents, all she did was bite the heads of the serpents off and enjoy the blood dripping down her neck, always smiling. The angel realized he had a big problem. This was a very extreme case. My sister had been possessed by a demon, and she had to be exorcised. The angel wasn't going to do lots of complicated rituals to exorcise her. No. He knew that demons loved fire, heat. So he will make it quite simple. He will put my sister in a room full of ice, and hopefully that will do the job. So my sister was now in this room full of ice, and she was shivering and shivering and unhappy. And the shivers became more strongly, more powerful. And now she was really shivering, like really, really violently. And as the minutes passed by, and then half an hour shivering very strongly, the demon inside her left her body. He couldn't take it anymore. The ice, the cold, the shivering. So now she was free from the demon, and the angel had exorcised her. Then the angel phoned me and said, I believe that your sister is now free from devil worshipping. I want you to check her out for 7 days and then pay me the rest of the money, the £2,000 you owe me. The angel took the talisman away. My sister woke up and she said to me, I was in a boot camp and they were punishing me for being a devil worshipper. And then I remember when they brought me home, soldiers in a jeep, and they said, don't try it again or you'll be back in boot camp. And I said to my sister, but you're back here now at home. Would you ever devil worship again? And she said, no, I will take on gambling instead. I'm going to go to Las Vegas. My jaw dropped. And I still had £2,000 to pay to that angel that I owe him. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Your stories are always so unusual and quirky. I love the way you've got your angel talking like a hitman. And now we know how much it costs for an exorcism. Thank you. Rebecca, are you there? Rebecca? Oh, here we are. Here we are, Rebecca just getting organized there. The camera. Ready when you are, Rebecca. Welcome. You're muted.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Can you hear me now?
yes, that's good.
Okay. I'm on a phone, so I can only see 4 of you, and I'm going to be talking to the audience here, if that's okay, in the cafe.
Yeah, that's fine.
So after that very surreal story, Lucy, we're going to travel. Actually, I think because Kamal and I have been exchanging stories of Joha. I don't know if you know Joha. So he's a character in many stories across the Muslim world. And here in Morocco, they call him Joha. And Kamal and I love Joha stories. In Algeria, I think he's called Hoja. In Turkey, Mullah Nasruddin, maybe you know. So is he wise? Is he a fool? Up to you to decide. So one day, Joha decided to take his donkey to the other side of town to get him to graze the good grass that was there. So he went out and he stroked his donkey's ears and he whispered things in his ear. And actually, I don't know what he whispered. Maybe we'll find out in another story. But he walked into the village, into the town, pulling his donkey on the end of a rope. He walked through the market and he chattered here and there and telling people about his life. And the day before, he had tried to get into the nobleman's banquet and they hadn't let him in because of his poor man's clothes. And he was telling everyone about that misadventure. And suddenly he turned around and realized that the donkey was no longer at the other end of his rope. My donkey, my donkey. And all his friends and the neighbors and the people in the market, they said, Joha, Joha, you have such bad luck these days. Look, sit down and we'll go and look for your donkey. And so they went and looked at the vegetable stall in case the donkey had wanted to eat a lettuce while waiting for Joha to finish his story. Wasn't there. They went all sorts of different stalls in the market. They couldn't find him. They went and had a look at the fields to see if the donkey impatient had gotten ahead. They couldn't find him and they came back and they said, Joha, we can't find your donkey. You know what, just go home and we'll keep looking and we'll bring your donkey to you this evening. I mean, it can't have gone far. We know how much you love your donkey. So poor Joha, he went home. And that evening, a few people came and they said, Joha, we're really sorry, but we just haven't found your donkey. It seems like it's gone for good. We're not sure you'll ever find it again. Joha fell to his knees. He looked up at the sky and said, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. And people said, no, Joha, we're telling you that you've lost your donkey and you probably will never find him again. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And they said, Joha, why are you thanking God? And we're telling you you've lost your dear, dear donkey. And Joha said, I could have been on the donkey. Where would I be now? I'll tell you a couple more because they're like 2 minutes long, each one of them. We can see
I am so borrowing
go
that
for it.
story.
I can't actually hear you, Babasi. Because
I said, I am so going to borrow that story.
You're
I
welcome.
got to put a little Southern twist on it, but I am, with your permission, of course.
Of course, it's not
Oh,
mine.
wow.
It's Moroccan. Okay, so then the next day, Joha, he went to the village, the next door village, to meet a friend of his, and he didn't have his donkey, so he was walking, and it was hot, and he was walking, and he suddenly saw someone coming towards him, and that man had his head down, his shoulders down, and was grumbling, and when Joha got to him, he said, what's the matter, my friend? What's your problems? And the man said, my friend, you can't imagine my life. I'm so unlucky. I lost my job. I have to go to the next city and look for a job. I've left my family behind. I'm so unhappy. You know, life is so hard. And he said, look, and he got his bag off his shoulder and he said, look, my friend, this is everything I have in the whole entire world. Look, a blanket, a bowl, a few personal things of mine. That's all I have in the whole entire world. And Joha, he snatched the bag off the man. He turned around and started running down the lane. And the man, after he had recovered from his surprise, he ran behind him. He said, are you crazy? What's wrong with you? You bad, evil person. I just told you that this is all I possess and now I'm trying to steal it. And Joha, he turned a corner, he dropped the bag and he hid behind a tree. And he waited. And the man continued screaming and running behind him. He turned the same corner and he saw his bag on the ground. He picked the bag up and my blanket, my bowl, all my possessions. Life is so beautiful. Thank God, I'm so happy. And off he went, whistling down the lane. And Joha, he giggled to himself and he said, well, that's one way of making someone happy. Then he carried on his way and he got to the village, just at the entrance of the village. And there was a man there selling fans. And Joha asked him, so hot, and he asked him the price of the different fans. And the man told him, well, this one is 3 piastres, this one is 2 piastres, and this one is 1 piastre. You probably don't want that one. But Joha, without 1 second of hesitation, took the cheapest one, paid the man, and off he went. You know, no? And he came back a few seconds later, a few minutes later, and he said, I just bought this off you, and now it's broken. And the man said, well, you did take the cheapest one. It works differently from the others. You didn't let me explain. Joha said, what do you mean? The man said, well, you know, these expensive ones, you know, you hold them in front of your face and you wave them from left to right. Joha said, yes. And the other one? Well, the cheap one, hold it in front of your face and you move your face. Thank you. So we have Kamal now. I think, is that right, Kath?
Yes, Kamal next. That's right. Thank you, Rebecca. That was great fun. They were lovely stories. And everybody, let's welcome Kamal. Hooray!
Hello.
Hello, Kamal.
Hello, Mr. Bavasi. Hello, Kat. Hello, Lucy, Valentina. What I love is Lucy's stories. Yeah, the way you narrated. I mean, your story was magnificent. So my story is kind of the same story of Rebecca, which is Juha. If Juha, the famous storyteller ever in Arabic and Moroccan culture, but also there is another character who is famous. I mean, Aladdin, in Arabic we call it Aladdin. Okay, so once upon a time, in a village, there was a young man. His name was Aladdin. He was with his uncle, and he informed him to go to a cave, to enter the cave, and because to bring coins, to bring money, to bring many things. That's what happened. They decided to go, and that time happened something different, or something weird, which was the door of the cave was closed, and Aladdin stayed inside the cave, and his uncle was careless, was neglected everything, and returned back home. And Aladdin was panicked, was fearful how to solve this problem. So he was thinking and rethinking, and he glanced among a magical lantern or kindle in Arabic, or we can say a lamp or a light. That's what we kind of call it, the magical lamp. Juha took the lamp and rubbed it, and what happened? There is a giant. Yeah, a giant emerged that time. Okay. And the genie was so happy and so lucky because of Aladdin. He released again. He thanked Aladdin about his favor and said to him, say everything you would love to have it in your life. I can do it to you because I can't forget your favor or the favor you did with me. Aladdin suggested just one thing, is to, the giant offered him money, coins, gold, silver, every stuff. For what? The reason was a fall in love. A love story between the Queen Jasmine and Aladdin. He glanced her once. She was sitting over the balcony, and from that time there was an eternal love between the two. Later on, the genie, or let's say the giant, the Balki, the Starji, the Massive, helped Aladdin by offering him everything, all what he demanded. Aladdin decided the next day to go with his mom to propose the marriage from Jasmine, from the family of Jasmine. The Sultan rejected and refused his proposal. Aladdin was very pleased and confused. What was the reason the Sultan prevented him in to link with the Queen? Because the Queen, the fathers or the Sultans, the Sultan urged to his daughter to only get married with a prime minister's son. All right. Aladdin returned back to the giant. Okay. Excuse me, the giant, I beg you. I only want you, or I say, I only desire is just one thing. The giant replied with cheerfully, with pleasure. I'm always supporting, I can support you. So he said, Aladdin, to the giant, I want you only to make the future husband of the Queen, Prime Minister's son, to making him in a bad, in a shabby, in a torn situation, in a fragile mood, okay, to making him crazy, or even, to be gothy or bad, something like that. That's what happened. The giant changed the whole scenario, and the ceremony of marriage interrupted or procrastinated. The next day, the following day, Aladdin decided to go to meet the Sultan to discuss with him the same topic. It's about marriage, right? The Sultan this time accepted, but in a condition, in an order, which was that time, because Aladdin, this story is about ages and ages and eras and eras. Okay, so only there is a condition. If you would love to get married, my daughter, you should build a spacious a wide and luxurious palace to my queen. Jasmine is the only beautiful flower I have in this life. Aladdin accepted and returned last time to the giant and asked him the last wish, the last one can be achieved, is to help me to build or support me to build a palace to Jasmine. That's happened, and many actions and events were happening also, like what? Like the engagement, like love between Jasmine and Aladdin, like respect, like much appreciation, many things. After all the story, the last story inside the story is another story, which was a story, and now it is the story I narrate to you, which is when the giant missed and was yearning to Aladdin, asked him to wish another wish, to freshen and to wish his life, I mean, dear life. Aladdin and the queen, and we forget, it's not forgetting, but the mom. I mean, the mom, the Aladdin's mom, okay? So the characters, the Sultan, Jasmine, Jasmine is the queen, Aladdin, the mom. And the end is Aladdin demand the giant to take your freedom. You are free now. I don't find any anything to say to help me or something like that. I needn't you anymore. All right. So the giant said, no, you are a young man. You are a bold young man. You are a loyal man. You are an honest man. I would love to stay with you to make your life happy. So that's what happened. The giant stayed with Aladdin, and in the big palace, the mom, mother, the father, Aladdin, the mother, the queen, and the whole family were living in peace and happiness and love and everything. And the story is ended here. Thank you. So sorry about my English, or sorry about my words, or sorry about my words. I don't know, because when I speak English, I feel ticklish because I'm Arabic, and I speak Arabic better than stars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kamal. A lovely traditional story, Aladdin and Jasmine. Beautiful. So who have we got next? Oh, it's Keith next. Are you ready for us, Keith?
Yes, I can.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Away you go then, Keith.
Okay. Over 2,000 years ago, Jesus lived in Israel, and he was crucified on the cross, and he was raised on the third day. And then he appeared to his disciples over the next few weeks and months, and then eventually he's taken up into heaven. And Peter and the rest of the apostles, they were speaking to all the people that would hear preaching about Jesus. And this made a certain man called Saul from Tarsus, very angry. And he went threatening all the people that were following Jesus, the followers of Jesus, whether men or women, and he was hunting them down. And it's all in that area, and the church has spread, and he went to the authorities in Jerusalem, he was a Pharisee, and he went to the Sanhedrin, to the high priest, and he managed to get letters of authority to take to Damascus, to the Jewish leaders there, and with the objective of hunting down all the followers of Jesus, all the followers of the way, and bring them back to Jerusalem for trial. Well, it's about 150 miles between the two cities, and he'd nearly reached Damascus, when suddenly there's a flash of light. And Saul was just thrown to the ground. And he heard a voice which said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" And Saul said, "Who are you, sir?" And the voice said, "I am Jesus. I am the Jesus that you are persecuting. And I want you now to get up and go into Damascus, and I'll tell you what to do." Well, when Saul stood up, he couldn't see, he was blind. And all the people around him that were his fellow travelers, they heard the voice but couldn't see anybody. But they led Saul into Damascus, and they took him to the house of Judas in Straight Street. And there he spent 3 days, not eating or drinking, in fasting, and he was praying. Now, in Damascus, there was a disciple, a follower of the way, named Ananias. And he had a vision. "Ananias, Ananias?" "Yes, Lord, I'm here." And it was Jesus speaking to him and saying, "I want you to go to Judas' house in Straight Street, and there you'll find Saul of Tarsus. And I want you to lay hands on him that he might receive his sight." But Ananias said, "Lord, I mean, this Saul of Tarsus, he's got letters of authority from Jerusalem to Damascus, and he's hunting down and threatening to kill all the followers of the Lord, all your followers." But the Lord said to Ananias, "You go. You go and you lay hands on him to receive his sight. For he has been chosen, he's chosen by me, to spread all the news about myself to kings and queens, to Jews and Gentiles." And so Ananias, he had no choice. He went. And he went and he found the house of Judas in Straight Street, and he went in and he found Saul lying there. And he said to him, he put his hands on him and said, "Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus has told me that you have seen a vision of me coming and laying hands on you. And now, as I lay hands on you, you receive your sight and receive the Holy Spirit." And all at once, there was scales, like fish scales, fell from Saul's eyes, and he could see. And he stood up and was refreshed, and he ate something, and he felt so much better. Now Saul, with this message, he was preaching all over Damascus, particularly the synagogues, and reaching the Jews, saying that Jesus is the Messiah, he's the Son of God. And the Jews there were amazed. That I thought that this man was hunting down and killing all the followers of the way. And they hatched a plot to kill him. There's a plan to kill him. And they put guards on the city gates. But the friends of Saul, who had a kind of a flat or a house sort of built into the city walls, they lowered him out through a window in a basket right down outside. And so Saul escaped from that persecution that was in Damascus. And he made all the journey all the way back to Jerusalem, and he tried to join the apostles there, the church there. But they were very wary of him, because this Saul had been hunting down followers of the way and having them killed. But there was a man there called Barnabas, the encourager. And he took Saul under his wing and he took him to the apostles and said that Saul had met the Lord Jesus on the road to Damascus and he had become a follower of the way. And in fact, he'd been preaching and telling the Jews there in Damascus that Jesus was the Messiah and the Son of God. Well, the church in Jerusalem then accepted him and he was able to move freely around the city. And again, he sought out the Pharisees and he went to the synagogues and he was telling them all about Jesus being the Son of God and the Messiah that they'd all been looking for. And again, there was a plot to kill Saul. And he heard about it, and the followers there in Jerusalem heard about it. And they made arrangements to take him off to Caesarea and eventually send him off to Tarsus, his home city. And at that time, after that, for the church and the believers in Judea and in Samaria and in the Galilee, there was a time of peace. And the church grew and they continued to worship the Lord under the power of the Holy Spirit. And that's the story of Saul of Tarsus and how he became a follower of the way on his journey to Damascus.
Thank you, Keith. It's a long time since I've heard that story, the road to Damascus. Thank you.
Okay.
And next up, we have Bubba C. Please welcome Bubba C. Hooray. No, you're there, mate. You're there.
Thank you, Keith. That story is captivating, and well, we'll talk later, but I enjoyed the story immensely. Okay. All right. Now, Anansi is a character known throughout the world. And when I was a wee bit of a lad, and I think I had maybe 3 chin hairs. Well, no, not that far back. That would be for television. Joking. Anyhow, this Anansi is a character, and he's sometimes described as an Oshun or an Orisha, a god, and sometimes he's a demigod, and sometimes he's a man with special powers, and sometimes he's a spider, and sometimes he's a Spider-Man. Oh no, wait a minute, copyright. Anyhow, but I want to share with you an Anansi story. This is a story in the working. I like this story, and I want to share it with you. So this story takes place long before Keith or I had whitened our beards, when we both had hair on top of our heads, long before John was rowing a boat ashore. Oh no, that was his brother Michael, excuse me. This is a story about Anansi. Now, way back in the beginning, when the first peoples were animals, is when the story took place. Now, you see, there was a village, and the story takes place in Ashanti, or some people would say Ashanti land. And along the village, not far from the village, there was a mighty river. You know, I've never heard of a weak river. It's always a mighty river. Okay, so there was a mighty river, and it was long and that's again, it's long and twisting. Okay, anyhow, so much for the river. And in this river, there lived a python, a snake. Yes, not a snake in the grass, a snake in the river. And this snake was enormous. It was gigantic. It was huge, and it was fat. In other words, it was thick. And this python would wait by the riverbank for any unwary animal or person. It was rumored that there were missing children who were the meal of the python. And they knew for a fact that the python had eaten more than a couple of sheep, that he had eaten He had even eaten some cows. And this python was feared by the villagers. They didn't know what to do. Now, this is way back when the people could talk directly to the creator of all things. But for the sake of the story, we're going to refer to him as God. So the people went to God and they said to God, God, there's a mighty python in the mighty river, and he's eating everything that gets too close to the river. We have children gone missing, sheep gone missing, goats gone missing, and he ate some cows too. You got to do something. You got to destroy, you got to do something to him. And God said, my children, I hear you, and I sympathize with you, but Python is one of my children as well. And I cannot take sides against Python, and I cannot take sides against you. But I hear in your village, there is one who calls himself very wise indeed, and often brags he's the wisest of all men. I believe his name is Kwaku Anansi. Now, I tell you what I will do. You go to Kwaku Anansi and you tell him that God sent you to him. And that God said, if he can capture Python, then he may do as he may and prove that he's a wise man indeed. But if he cannot capture Python, then you must punish him for being a braggart and punish him indeed. So the people said, well, okay. Anansi, Kwaku Anansi, yes. The one that says he's the wisest man in the whole village, yes. Well, he has solved some problems before in the past, but he don't do anything. He just sits there in his compound giving out advice whether you ask for it or not. And we got to ask him. This is my word, yes. Oh, okay. And if he doesn't do it, we can punish him. Oh, yes, you may punish him as you see fit. So they made their way back to the Kijiji, that's Swahili for village, and they sought out Kwaku Anansi. And Kwaku Anansi was sitting in his front yard, in his compound, doing what he does, giving out advice and knowledge, whether people ask for it or not. And they said, Kwaku Anansi, good sir, we just finished talking to God. And God said to talk to you and said for you to solve the problem of the python because you're so wise. And we have been told, mostly by you, that you are the wisest of all wise men. So surely you can do this. And God says, if you can capture the python, you may do with him as you will. But if you cannot, that we should punish you as we see fit. Oh, this is what you talk to God. Yes. And God told you to come to me. Yes. Do you understand why God told you to come to me? Because you claim to be the wisest of wise men. And I am. And I have this problem already solved. Go home, go back to your wives, go back to your children, go back to your fields, just go. I have this. Go away, go away. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh, that python, he can eat a cow. He could swallow me. Oh, what am I? And if I don't do it, they're going to punish me. And if I do it, I know what I'm going to do. So he called the people back to him. He said, come, you lazy people, come. I will get rid of the python, but you must bring me eggs, palm wine, and cassava. Lots and lots and lots of it. And we're going to take it down by the river. Eggs, palm wine, and cassava. Lots and lots of it now. People say, well, what are you going to do with it? No. You do as I ask, and I will get rid of the python. And people look at each other because, okay, he's wise, I guess we should do it. So they got lots of eggs, and they got lots of cassava, and they got lots of palm wine. Yeah, they had me at palm wine. Oh, excuse me, back to the story. So they took it all down. They took it all down by the river, but none of them wanted to stay there because that python was huge. And Anansi said, no, wait, you keep saying it's huge. Is he longer than my house? Oh, way longer. Is he longer than the distance from my compound to the gate? Oh, way longer. Is he longer than the distance between my house and my field? Oh, no, way longer. Is he longer than the distance between my house and the river? That's about it. Okay. So as Anansi started going toward the river, or as I sometimes say when I'm using my southern drawl, the river, as Anansi started going toward the river, he started collecting vines, and he started making rope from the vines. And he gets down by the river, and he sits by a tree, and he has a conversation with himself. Yes, he was talking to himself. And Anansi was good at mimicking things, and so he used two different voices. I don't know. I don't think this python is all that. Oh, yeah, I heard this python. No, you didn't hear nothing. This python is long and beautiful, and it's powerful. No. That python is short and ugly and ain't got no strength. No. He's powerful. He's long and beautiful. No, he's short and ugly and short, long, short. And then all of a sudden there was a pow, and then the sound of somebody running away. The python was just under the water hearing this conversation going on, and he had to find out what was going on because he was curious. Now, I know some of you say curiosity killed the cat, but the other part of that is satisfaction brought him back. But back to the story. So the python, that's my python. The python made his way up out of the river, and he looked at Anansi, and he saw the eggs, and he saw the palm wine, and he saw the cassava. And Anansi said, oh, that's for you, that's for you. Because I knew that someone as big and as powerful as you had to enjoy good food, and I brought all this food down here so you could eat and then we could talk. And the python loved himself some eggs. And he loved himself some cassava. Now, for those who don't know, cassava is it starts out like a seed, and it gets pounded, and they make a doughy like, it's not quite bread, but it's really doughy like, and you use it for dipping into other foods to get the flavor, because it doesn't have much flavor by itself. And he's eating the cassava, and it's blowing up in his stomach, because it gets bigger and bigger. And then he starts drinking the palm wine. Had me at palm wine. Oh, now this python is full, but he's still eyeing Anansi as a snack. And he says, hold on. He says, I tried to burp, but he says, that was good. That was good. He said, yeah, I thought you would enjoy that. But my friend and I were having this argument, and he said that you were short, and I said you were long. He said you were short, and I said you were long. And now I'm just curious about, how long are you? I'm pretty long. Well, you see this here tree that just happened to fall down by where we are? Yeah, I see it. Well, I was wondering, are you longer than this tree? And it was an old tree. And old trees get longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. He said, you think you longer than this tree? I think so, but I don't know. He says, well, why don't we measure you against the tree? Okay. Well, you fed me so much good food. It's the least I can do before I eat you up. It's the least I can do. He said, okay, because let's put your head at this part of the tree, and then line your body up so it goes down to the other part of the tree. Now stop moving. No, you keep moving. No, stop. I tell you what, hold on. Let me get some of these vines. I'm gonna tie your head in place. All right. Got your head in place. Come on, stretch. I'm gonna tie this part in place. Come on, stretch. You can do better than that. Got this. And he stretched him all the way down to his tail, and he tied that around the tree. He said, well, ain't that something? You and the tree are the same length. So you must be pretty long. But I tell you what, no, I tell you what, I'm getting hungry again. I need to go back in the water. Let me loose. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And he called for the village people, not the village idiots. He called for the village people, and not to be confused with that band that used to be popular. Right. So he called for the village people. No, he didn't. He called for the village people. See, even I get confused. And they came and they gathered around, and Anansi had taken this huge machete. Back in the days, you never leave home without it. And he started slicing the python up into big pieces. And by the way, python with a little bit of holiday sauce and some hot peppers is a very delicious meal. At least that's what I'm told. And he sliced the python up and got rid of the python problem. And the people looked at Anansi and they said, "Oh, you are the wisest man." And they heard another strange noise. They went, "Oh, he is a wise man, man. And that was God. Because God didn't think that he was that wise, but Anansi showed that he was indeed a wise person. For wisdom is not how much you know. Wisdom is how you use what you know to improve not only your life, but the lives of those around you. And that is my story of Anansi and the python. Asante.
Thank you very much, Babasi. I love it. I love the python with his undertone. I'm going to eat you.
And there's a story about why Anansi lives in the rafters, but that's a tale for another time. And also, a lot of animals he runs into, they talk about, yeah, we're going to do this, and then I'm going to eat you. But he's a wise character. He's a wise character. Thank you.
And a recipe as well for python and hot
Oh, yes,
sauce.
yes.
What more could we ask for?
A little Chianti, or for those that don't, a little bit of palm wine. And for those that don't, a nice strong mint tea.
Yeah, absolutely. It just sounds great. And big respect for Diana for her YMCA there.
Yes, that's what you lady almost threw me off, because I'm like, yeah, the village people.
Now, come on, everybody. We're not here to enjoy ourselves. Right. Who's next? Thank you very much, Babasi. Despina next. Hooray.
Thank you. Hello. So, okay, it was good of you, Babasi, to entertain us a bit, because I'm here so as not to, as Kath so wisely told unknowingly. So every once in a while, you come across something on the internet you did not expect. And sometimes it is not a literary text. Sometimes it's just words from the heart. So the other day, I found this piece of writing by a Greek girl called Ellie Stourna, and I really, really liked it. It talked to me, and I had never thought of that exactly before, but it kind of matched my way of thinking. So I asked her permission to translate it and give it to you, and she was very glad to allow me. So, talking of unsolicited advice, Babasi, here's how I'll connect it to your story. So maybe it will help us think, because I don't know if you were all present at the beginning of this meeting. Babasi complimented us, everybody here, so that's a good example to follow in contrast to this. So here are the words of Ellie. You engage in conversation with me so as to flatter or flirt with me. You're not like other women, you say, and expect me to say thank you. Because in the patriarchal society where I've been brought up, I was taught that other women are competition. that I have to be better than them to gain some respect, Cookie. You look prettier than your friend, you say, more talented than your sister, more interesting than my ex. The more you say things like that, the more you expect me to look at you in gratitude for judging other women and me with them. You place us in a competition we never asked to be part of. Other women are not my enemy. Other women are just as great as I am. And we never asked to be compared to one another or to be placed on opposing sides. I am like the others, I reply. I am as interesting as any woman out there, each in her own way. I deserve the same respect as the rest. I am entitled to equal treatment, no matter how pretty or ugly you may think I am. The other women are not standing opposite me, but patriarchy is against all of us. This invisible system of beliefs trying to convince us that for one of us to step up, the others must fall down. Talking our ears off, saying that relationships among us are not real, and that at the end of the day, we would change everything and abandon our friends for a husband. We that are first in every great fight: human rights, conservation of the environment, animal rights. I am like all other women, I proudly reply to you. I take their hands and together we are lifted higher up. I drop your sad compliments down the gutter to accompany all the other patriarchal mythical monsters. Let them drown so we can at last breathe freely. Ευχαριστώ.
Thank you, Despina. That was, who wrote that? Was it your own work or somebody else?
No, it's a Greek girl called Ellis Tourna. You would love her. She's a vegan. She's the founder of a vegan culinary business. And a feminist at that.
Yeah.
It's obvious. But you know, we just sometimes we see things with good intentions, maybe things we've heard before.
Yes.
And we repeat them without thinking, without going the extra mile to put things in perspective.
Yes.
So it's very nice to compliment another person, but be wise enough to know how to do so.
Absolutely.
There's absolutely no need for comparisons. That's not the right way to go about it.
Absolutely. I came across a quote the other day. Feminism is the radical notion that women are human beings.
Right. What a radical notion that is.
Isn't it?
Exactly that.
Yeah, isn't it? Oh, thank you very much, Despina. That's really thought-provoking. Yeah, and sadly, it still needs saying.
Are we an eclectic group this evening? Are we an eclectic group this evening?
Eclectic group.
Yeah, I mean, because we've had humor, we've had seriousness, we've had lessons, we've had me. I mean, this group is just, this evening is just like, I know these Sundays are always good, but there's something extra about this group today. And I mean that in a positive way. Yeah. Oh, wow. Let me be quiet.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to be quiet.
So Valentina, have you decided on the story you'd like to tell?
Yeah, I have. And again, it's totally changing directions. We're coming on to Christmas for those of us who celebrate Christmas. It's the beginning of Advent. And so my story is that way oriented. And I tell stories from my life experience just because I've been given such a life that changes direction almost every day. And I have the most interesting experiences from unexpected places.
And this story, it's not really a story, it's more of a remember when. When I was growing up, most blind children or most disabled children were educated in what we call now institutional schools. It didn't really bother me because that was the way things were, and I got a very good education, actually better than the education of my working poor families, brothers and sisters. Out of 6 children, I was the only one who went in the end to university and did very well. And I credit that to the dedicated teachers and counselors that raised me and the other blind children in my institutional school. So it wasn't always an easy place to live because I only saw my parents 3 times a year or so. They were hardworking. They couldn't come and see me on weekends like other children's parents did. And so I would see them for the 2 summer months. And at Christmas time, I would come home. And at Easter time, you know, that scene at the Christmas Carol where Scrooge is at school, I can identify with that, oddly enough, even though I did go see my family, because I saw my family so rarely. And when one is on their own and having to be a grown-up from the age of 6, in the sense that you have to learn to stand up for yourself, there are lots of good times, but there are lots of challenging times. And at Christmas time, I was not unusual in that I worried about going home because there was very little at home in terms of the kind of Christmas that Canadian children were used to, because we were Ukrainian immigrants and we didn't do the Santa down the Christmas chimney, and we didn't do this and that normal Canadian, you know, the average Canadian kids did. So being gifted with a good spirit, I learned to find happiness in all kinds of places. And one of the things that happened when I was very young would have happened around this time of year. We had scheduled meals, and then after breakfast, you had to go brush your teeth and collect your belongings for your classes and be ready at 8:30 for when the classes started. And in that half an hour, you had to get yourself ready for the day and get everything together. Well, one December morning, it was a snowy morning, we went for breakfast. And as I was leaving, I heard a piano playing and I heard singing. And it was other children singing, and it was so nice because they were singing Christmas carols. I didn't really understand the full extent of it. I was 7 or 8, but I heard the singing and I walked through our big school. It was an old Victorian building. And the center of it was sort of shaped like a big cross with different extensions off of it. But at the very center, where the main hallways crossed, the floor was all marbled and they were high ceilings. And there was a piano. And somebody was playing the piano and there were children singing. And I went towards the singing and they were singing Christmas carols. And it was one of the few times that I remember there was no teasing, no bullying, because in the month of December, every day in that period after breakfast, the kids would get together on their own. There was no supervision, no staff member, but someone would play the piano and we all sang Christmas carols. And they had books of Christmas carols written in Braille with all of the verses. So from the time I was 8 years old to the time I graduated with my high school diploma at 17, for the 2 weeks in December before Christmas, every day after breakfast, we would gather at that hallway intersection, which acted like a big speaker. It was like a big music box because the piano would play, and all us kids, didn't matter which denomination you were or of no denomination, the Jewish kids sang in along with us, and all the different religions sang with us. And whether there were no religion, we sang everything from White Christmas to Santa Claus is coming to town to Away in a Manger, and I heard the bells, and all those Jesus, my brother, kind and good. And it was one of the happiest times that I can ever remember. And I'm 70 years old, and I was at I'm part of a messaging group on the internet of other people in Ontario that know each other. There's probably about 30 of us on the group, and the women were messaging about that and recalling how happy we felt, because it was one time we could really feel what joy was. You know, the ones of us who didn't have anything to come home, you know, for really, you know, because some of us were from broken homes, found hope in that music. We found peace because the differences, the arguments among us all stopped at that time of the year. And that 2 weeks of singing for those years has motivated me all my life in music. And if it's this time of the year and you come into my house, there's always Christmas music playing from all over the world. I don't differentiate which language it's in or where it comes from. I have the Soweto choir singing Christmas music. I've got the Ukrainian Kiev choir singing. I've got St. Paul's choir and Westminster Abbey choir and Corpus Christi from Texas. And I just play them one after the other because it really lifts my spirit. And so for those of you who are having a difficult time at Christmas, who might be sad about something, who might be worried about, say, the war in Ukraine or your economic situation, I'm going to suggest that you turn on some real Christmas music, some Christmas music that gives you hope and gives you joy, and find a friend to listen to it with. And hopefully it will do some of the same things for you as it has done for me every year since I was about 7 years old. Thank you.
Valentina, thank you so much. That was a really beautiful story. Thank you. I think I can speak for all of us in saying that. You had us all enraptured. And yes, you've reminded me of my what Baba C says, what Kath said. Absolutely. You've reminded me of my special December CD collection that I haven't started playing yet. But
well, mine is playing already. I turned it off before I came here because I usually start at the beginning of December, and people say, do you ever get sick of it? Nope. I just was fortunate enough to be singing in a choir. Yesterday we had a beautiful concert, and I thought, yep, when I'm telling stories, I think I'll refer to this, you know, this part of my life because it's so uplifting and it doesn't cost you a thing because music's everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I've got a CD. It's called Celtic Christmas, and just the most beautiful melodies played on an Irish harp.
Oh, it would be lovely.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, what a lovely way to wrap up our evening of storytelling. As Baba C said, it really has been eclectic tonight. We've been all around the world. We have had humor. We've had thought-provoking stories, funny stories. We've had a bit of gospel as well. We've had everything. We've had angelic Hitman, we've had Schnitzel, Schnutzel and Schnutzel, Nasruddin or Johar or whatever name he wants to go by today. We've had everything going on tonight. And, you know, I just can't wait to get in the kitchen and try out that Python recipe. It just so happens I've got some Python in the fridge, didn't know what to do with it.
What time are you serving pie? I'm on the way.
Well,
hey, but Kath?
It could take a very long time to cook though, Babasi, because, you know, it's that thick. It's huge.
Ooh.
Huge. I had to buy a new fridge.
Whoa.
And
Well, I
it's
have some
long,
vines
it's
in the
not
lawn.
short,
so-
it's
And
long.
long. Exactly, Diana. And long. Huge and long. And it keeps doing this funny dance where it goes like that.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what's upcoming.
Yes, I've got it here. I've written it down. Yes, John sent me a message earlier on, and he instructed me to say next Tuesday, 5 o'clock, it's the Young Tellers. And he did tell me that Liz Manuel and Bob Carnegies will tell stories for children at 6 p.m. But he didn't say what day. I'm assuming
Friday.
that's Friday. It's normally a Friday, isn't it?
Yes.
So I'm guessing that is Friday. So that's Liz Manuel and Bob Carnegies telling stories for children, 6 o'clock on Friday. So, well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a really uplifting evening. Desmona, I'm quite tired. Do you mind if I message you tomorrow?
Absolutely not. Whenever you feel like it, if you feel like it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well,
So,
you guys
well.
have made me hungry once again. That's a good sign.
You're
You know,
always hungry, Baba.
no, you know what it is? It's like when you enter a certain level of happiness and joy, that releases all the little good stuff in your brain, you know, the endorphins and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when you get that, it's like a high, it's a natural high, and it makes me hungry. And I can't but help but stay hungry when I'm around such a wonderful collection of storytellers. So you guys have made me hungry. So I'm going downstairs and cook. And actually, I know what I'm going to make. I'm going to make cabbage stew.
Very
Oh,
nice.
that sounds delicious.
It's going to be good.
Very
All
Well,
right.
those cookies are still waiting for you here, Bubba.
Yes, and I'm gonna work something out there. I love cookies. The only
You
thing I love
can-
more than cookies is more cookies.
Just remember one thing, there's no ocean between you and me, right? You can
No.
walk here.
Actually,
Mind
Amtrak
those
comes
Great
up there, I
Lakes.
think.
Don't fall in the Great Lake, Babasi.
No, I won't fall in the Great Lake. I'll fall in one of the lesser lakes.
Lots if you're in Scotland, but that would be the wrong direction to get to Canada.
I'd have to get wet to get wet.
Yeah.
As I said, ladies and gents, you have really made my day. It's early on this side of the pond. It's creeping up on 3:40 p.m. So
Yeah.
I'm about to have a late lunch or an early dinner. But good folk, once again, I feel blessed to be a part of this. And I wish everyone a continued spiritual Sunday. And Kath, you've done a great job of hosting this evening and keeping me in line.
Thank you. Well, I have to run, so we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good couple of weeks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Until the next time, to be continued.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Take care, Despina. We read your
Bye.
message.
Yeah, I got your
Hey,
message.
Kevin.
Despina.
Popping in and out. We'll look for you the next time.
Hi, Kevin. Sorry, I think you maybe your signal wasn't too good, but maybe we'll catch you next time in a fortnight. Bye for now, everybody.
Take care. Stay blessed. Live long and prosper.
Oh, that too. Yeah. Bye-bye.